Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC betting show. I am Kyle Anthony and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC on ESPN plus 37, Marlon Moraes versus Cory Sandhagen. We're going to talk about a free play, which is on the main event. I also like two props I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit at the end of this as well. But before we do, definitely subscribe. Head kick the bell icon so you know when I'm dropping content, as well as give this a thumbs up. Always appreciate those who, share my content, like, retweet, all those things. Definitely follow me at Kyle Anthony UFC. Always talking to people over there and dropping more information, plays, and that kind of thing as well. But before we get into our free play for this weekend, definitely want to recap last weekend. It was the third 5% that I had released this year. It was on Germaine de Randamie minus 120. And she goes out there and gets the job done with a submission victory in that third round against Julia Pena. And just a real quick recap of this fight. This is a situation you can definitely go on Wagertalk. You can see the entire write-up that clients get prior to the fight. And this was a situation where I really liked Randamie here. I thought her striking was going to be far more superior to Pena. And also Pena, she had a layoff for 2.5 years. Had a baby, which is a wonderful thing, had a baby, but that's going to be a downturn in any kind of training. And she fought Nico Montoya, who, a 4-3 fighter and a very sloppy fight most recently. So I liked a lot of things about Randamie in this spot. Her high-level kickboxing, her high-level overall striking skill set. And yes, she had been taken down multiple times from Nunes, pretty much the whole fight, but that's Amanda Nunes, she's a world beater. But this situation, that first round, I liked what de Randamie was doing. She was patient, she stayed on the outside, she landed some big shots, actually stumbled and kind of rocked a little bit, or maybe a flash shot on Pena. Pena kind of, stumbled around a little bit, and it looked like it was really going to pick up into the spot where she's going to land a big shot. Their striking skill set, you could tell, was way apart between those two. And I thought she had won that first round. In that second round, again, some pretty nice shots from de Randamie, but she did get the takedown. And I think that it was a little bit too much of comfort that de Randamie kind of felt in that spot. And that was where Julia didn't need much. She found the opening, got the takedown, and that was where it was a little worrisome at that spot. But going into that third round, again, she kind of was utilizing some cage movement, and Pena goes in for that, in for a takedown. And de Randamie definitely talked a lot about, in the last week or so, about how much she's elevated her grappling. I mean, obviously, anybody can say anything, but she really, I thought, looked at the part of, I'm really going to be a MMA fighter, not just a world-class kickboxer. She goes in there, sinks in the choke, gets us to cash in, and that was a big play for us there. So we do cash in on the 5% play. And again, that was the only play that I did have this week, or last week. And again, I'm a quality over quantity kind of guy. I don't really look to just have 7 different plays and laddering crazy parlays. I'm looking for anywhere from 1 to 4 plays on one event, and this one here was the only play that I actually had, and it felt good to cash in on this one as well. So we ended up now, for the year, we are plus 62.85% return on investment for clients, as well as 67% winner this year. So feels great, still cashing those tickets. Awesome those that did follow and did cash in. So hopefully we can keep doing that. Right now I've got 3 plays up on Wagertalk. Link down in the description. They're up for purchase now. Take a look if you're interested. But we're going to talk about a free play on the main event, which is between Marlon Moraes versus Cory Sandhagen. So let's get into that right now as the free play. We will be talking about the main event. And this is an interesting fight here. It was just one that I look back at. Right now you've got the line. You've got Sandhagen as a slight favorite at a minus 144. You've got Moraes is a plus 118. Now again, we're going to go through 3 of the last fights for each guy, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other, and if the line makes sense to bet. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes is 23-6, and 3 fights ago he fought Rafael Assunção. This was a fight here where, Assunção was really, it really kind of looked that he was starting to, put it together, kind of have this rise in the division. And Marlon Moraes, his kickboxing is just very high level. He is big for the division, a strong guy, really versatile with his kicks. And this is a spot here where he came out guns blazing with leg kicks. And that's something that you do see that he is really using his arsenal. And obviously, because the big part of it is he wants you to start to focus on the legs, start looking to check the leg kicks. And he's got one of the quickest head kicks, switch kicks, that you may see within all of UFC, just how fast it is. So he did a really great job there, kind of chipping away on Rafael's legs, and that was really when he was trying to kind of do the same thing. Rafael kind of going in there, looking to do some leg kicks as well. But early in that first round, he ended up throwing some nice leg kicks, and then threw a beautiful combination. And again, even the quick hands of Moraes is, I think, something that is underrated just due to how great his arsenal of kicks are. So he goes out there, and he ended up, you could see almost Assunção was a little bit confused, wasn't really sure where the combination was coming from. Really nice output from Assunção. He goes out there, he lands a big shot, drops Assunção, he gets on top of the ground and pound, and this really showed, maybe Moraes is starting to actually look a little bit better on the ground, which is a big thing that a lot of people obviously say that that's a weakness of him, being the kickboxer that he is, but he is well-rounded, he does have some ground credentials, and he goes out there and really just works to the ground and pound, works into a nice spot, hooks in a guillotine in that first round, chokes out Assunção in that first round. Very impressive. This is a fight a lot of people thought was going to be a standing kind of leg kick, kickboxing kind of fight. And he goes out there and he gets a submission victory in the first round. Very impressive for Marlon Moraes. 2 fights ago was a title bout between Henry Cejudo and Marlon Moraes. Now, this was a fight here that's very interesting because now you've got a guy in Cejudo who obviously, world class wrestler, great grappling, gold medalist wrestler, all these great credentials that he does have, and he's really kind of put it together. He became a champion. This was a spot hit for him to get that second title. And going into this first round, it was really interesting to see how Moraes kind of put it all together, because that first round, Cejudo pretty much stayed at kickboxing distance, which is probably the possible worst thing that you could do when you are fighting a guy like Moraes. Give him the space, allow him to have that space, allow him to utilize the cage, utilize his footwork, get those combinations, and then move on the outside. Moraes has some nice footwork. And in that first round, it was really Moraes firing, moving forward, and you could really tell Cejudo kind of was thrown off. He didn't really, he's kind of adopted that karate stance. And even in this spot here, it was a terrible actual stance for him, just how quickly that front leg was getting chopped up from Moraes. And pretty much you would even see Cejudo probably, I think it was even in the middle of the round, he was already switching, orthodox to southpaw because it was already a chopped up leg. He was already taking a huge amount of beating. And then from there into that second round, it almost looked like this was a spot where Cejudo was going to be completely just overwhelmed with this kickboxing, the power that he has. Going into that second round was really where you started to see a little bit more where Cejudo looked to pressure. And they even talked about it, even after the fight, that they knew they needed to make a change. And Cejudo was the one that said, I need to go back to what I do, get in tight, grapple, make it dirty, and make it a fight. Don't just stand on the outside and make it technical, because obviously the technical striking is going to be on the side of Moraes by far. Obviously the ground game is going to be Cejudo, should be by far, but in general, those are really, both well-rounded guys, but those are really their strengths. And Cejudo started to do that a little bit more. He started to cut the distance down, and that was really, you see, an opportunity where it's a little bit uncomfortable for Moraes, who's a guy that likes to use his legs, and really when he's being backed up, he can't plant. It's harder for a kickboxer to really throw a leg kick or throw a body kick or throw a head kick off his back foot, or you're just not going to have a lot of power behind it. So Cejudo started to do that, started to get in his face more, forcing him to move back a little bit, and that was really when Cejudo found a lot of success. Now that could be something that Cory Sandhagen could use going into Saturday night, but that was an absolute different path that he took from that first round, where the first round just gave him the distance. Second round knew, I got to cut the distance, I got to shorten this up, I can't allow this kickboxer to get off his offense from this distance. And then going into this, going into the end of actually that second round was where you started to see Moraes slow down. And this is again something we're talking about a little bit further as we go through this. But you do see that the big explosion, the big power that Moraes has, that's the kind of situation where it takes a lot of energy. It absolutely takes a lot of energy, and when he does land these shots, we've seen him absolutely obliterate guys, completely knock them out cold. He's done it multiple times in the UFC, multiple times outside of the UFC. That's a situation where obviously that's important. Now, this being a 5-round fight, can he keep that up? That's a big question here. But going to the second round in a title fight, he was already starting to slow down. Cejudo had the volume. He started to really force him to work, force him to clinch, force him to be in the clinch, and fight the grappling. And from there, big knees from Cejudo, which really started to damage Moraes, ending of that second round. And then going into that third round, it really looked like Moraes was hurting. I mean, not just, he took some damage, but it just looked, the strength wasn't there. The volume was way down. Even his kicks, the power was way down. And that was when Cejudo really started to push forward. He started to land the big shots, started hurting him, got the ground and pound in there, was even looking for a finish, a submission finish in there, but he ended up getting the knockout victory in that third round. It was very impressive the way that he did it and the change that he ended up having going into that fight, where the first round was very bad, second round he started to change, and that is an absolute vulnerability that Moraes has, and something that a kickboxer of his stance, obviously power, but if you can cut the distance, that's going to help him. But he goes out there and he does, Cejudo goes out there and gets the victory. And then we've got, most recently he fought Jose Aldo. Now this is an interesting fight here where you take a look at it, and the fact that, Aldo, world-class fighter, like he's been in the UFC for how many years, feels like he should be 40 at this point, he's only 33, so he's done a lot of things started his career very early and has really continued to excel. The whole McGregor thing kind of pushed him down a little bit, but overall he's a world-class fighter. And in this spot here, Aldo absolutely implemented the exact strategy that Cejudo had that was successful for him. And Aldo was almost old-school Aldo, where he just absolutely, from the beginning, almost fought angry. Went out there, cut the distance, pushed forward, made it more of a boxing range than a kickboxing range. And that entire first round, almost it looked as if, Moraes, again, not comfortable being walked down. And the whole fight, from beginning to end, was all Aldo, pushing forward, pressure, walking Moraes down. Moraes almost, there was points where, he wasn't able to, find a comfort spot or get into that fight rhythm that I think a lot of fighters kind of use, that, hey, get into that rhythm, get into that flow, and he didn't. And pretty much Aldo just kept pouring it on, pushing forward. I mean, obviously, the strikes were, in certain rounds were slightly close or whatever it was, but overall it just looked Aldo walking him down, putting on the pressure, outlanding, the volume was there, and even going into that third round, it almost looked as if Aldo controlled the entire fight. I mean, to me, I thought it was a clear 2-1 for Aldo, and going to the judges, they ended up giving it to Moraes, which is very controversial. For those of you who have seen it, very close fight. I mean, obviously it was no landslide or no robbery, but I just thought the way that Aldo fought is the exact way that you need to beat Marlon Moraes. That's the exact way that you need to do. Cut the distance, and again, the guys that he does this to, or guys that do this to him, do have that success. So in this spot here, Aldo ended up losing the split decision. Moraes gets it, but very close, but he goes out there and gets the victory. Now, talking about Cory Sandhagen. Cory Sandhagen, he's minus 144, and he's 12-2. And 3 fights ago, I'm not going to talk about this one too much, he fought John Lineker. This was a spot here, John Lineker, he's just a heavy-handed kind of guy, looking for takedowns, looking for grappling, look for big shots. Sandhagen, I thought, again, once he gets into a rhythm, and he's the kind of guy the same kind of way, where once he gets into a rhythm and he gets his range, he's a tall for the division. Once he gets that, he really is sharp. And in this spot here, it was a decision victory for Cory Sandhagen, but again, it's a spot where he's a much taller guy, and obviously just the way that Lineker fights, he's just a brawler. There's not much more to him, but anyways, Sandhagen goes out there and gets the victory. But the fight that I want to talk about a little bit further with him is when he fought Assunção as well, and this is a fight here where, again, Assunção, kind of a fighter where, well-rounded, has a lot of weapons, and this was an absolute great showing from Cory Sandhagen. Just the way he fought, he circled, moved around the cage, he showed his arsenal of weapons, very versatile, can be on the ground, have control when he has top position, not scared to, look for the submission choke, or even just to be on his back, or be on the ground, or even stay, there's just a lot of ways that he can win a fight, and that makes him very difficult to just prepare for. His movement, and again, his arsenal and the way that he mixes up takedowns, mixing them in with his strikes, I think he disguises them very well. And in this spot here, I mean, it almost looked as if Assunção was completely overwhelmed, wasn't sure when to fire, wasn't sure when he should actually look for the offense, he just really looked out of sync the entire fight. It was a great showing for Cory Sandhagen. This is a fight here where you really thought Cory made that big turn. He's obviously was a big prospect, even prior to the Lineker fight. And this was a spot here, he's going to put it all together. He's going to be making this title run. It was just looked fantastic. He goes out there and gets a decision victory over Rafael Sunsao. And then most recently, he fought Aljamain Sterling. Now, this is a fight here, and again, I talked to a lot of people. Half people like Aljo, half people like Cory Sandhagen. And this was a fight where, Aljo looked the best I've ever seen him. I mean, shape-wise, striking-wise, just all-around confidence. And this was, in this spot, he took no time or didn't, just his idea of just, I'm going to get him, I'm going to latch onto him. He cut the distance and got hold of Cory's back within that first minute. And it was very impressive, and it was almost, I would go to a game plan that made it very successful to not just what Aljo does overall. The game plan was do not stand and just strike and look for the openings. Do it right away, overwhelm him. Cory was looking to get comfortable. Aljo was ready, took him right down, got the rear naked choke in the first round. Very impressive win for Aljo. Cory does lose that fight. So with that all being said, taking a look at it again, Moraes has got the kickboxing, he's got the power, he's explosive. His hand speed again is something I think is very underrated. A lot of people don't talk about it because he's got the good switch kick, good high kicks. He's able to really mix it up really well. But I think in this spot here, you've got a guy like Cory Sandhagen who has also a great kickboxing credentials. He definitely is well-rounded, but he's able to even take it to the ground. And that is a spot, I think, where Cory's going to look. There's no way he's going to look to just strike an entire fight with him. There's no way. But everybody knows, and at this point, I think the biggest issue is Moraes' gas tank. This is going to be a 5-round fight. How is it going to be what he's going to do after rounds 2 and 3? That first round is always scary when you see Moraes and just the power that he throws, because he knows he's done it many times where he just needs to land one of those and that can put your lights out. So he's almost banking on that early. Maybe he looks to, pull back a little bit and maybe have a little bit more in the later rounds. But a guy like Cory who had great output against Sunsao over 3 rounds. He just really had a great output, showed that he can last. I think he's going to have no problem if the fight goes into the later rounds and find an opportunity to put Moraes away or have an opportunity to sink in a choke. But even if there's a positioning situation, he can get him to the ground, take him to the ground, and work by winning round by round. So in this spot here, I think the explosiveness and the energy conserving his energy from Moraes is going to be the issue here. Early, I think those leg kicks are going to come into huge play with the fact that Sandhagen has the long legs and maybe has a front leg there. But I do like the way that he moves. I do like his footwork. I do like the way that he moves around the cage. I think is going to help him in this spot. And if he's quick enough, and which I think he does have a good first step when he's level changing, I think Cory Sandhagen can get in tight and tire out Moraes. Now again, first round's going to be scary, but in this spot here, I like Cory Sandhagen at -144. I think it's a good spot here. I know that Moraes is a scary guy early, but I think going into this fight late, I think that Cory is going to fight smart early in that first round or two, knowing that, hey, I can work through this. I can get through the first 2 rounds, first round and a half. We've seen, even prior to this, you've seen Moraes, that after that first round, his output just drops. You could just tell his stamina drops. The power behind his strikes, the volume, everything takes a big tick down. I think that's a spot for Cory Sandhagen that he can exploit. So I will be taking as my free play Cory Sandhagen at -144. Also that I was looking at as another one is, again, it's going to be a sprinkle. This is not going to be some massive play of mine. But again, Cory Sandhagen is a free play. But a sprinkle here is, I like the knockout for Cory Sandhagen at +270. I think that's a good little spot there. I think that he's going to have the opportunity again for the late strikes. I think even if he gets him to the ground, I think that Moraes, even later when he's tired, Moraes is good enough to kind of work off his back and he's strong where he can kind of maybe get at certain spots. But I think that's where Sandhagen could really land big shots, land big elbows, work positioning, and get the finish. So that's a spot here where I will probably be throwing a sprinkle on. Also, will the fight go the distance? -166. I think that's not a bad spot either. Obviously, if Moraes wins, he's not winning a decision here. It's going to be a knockout victory. So if you're looking in the spot and you're saying, hey, I can't pick which side I want to go, I kind of like Cory, and I can see the power of Moraes, and you're not really sure to go. I think will the fight go to the distance? No, at -166. I think that's a good spot there. I think you're still getting a good price, and both guys can finish the other one. And again, if Moraes wins, there's just absolutely no way he goes the distance, at least in my opinion there. So those are some other little props that I've kind of been toying around with. But again, the free play is Cory Sandhagen at -144. And again, if you want to take a look, up on Wagertalk, link down in the description. I've got 3 plays up for this event, and again, I'm a quality over quantity guy. I'm not looking to do a bunch of plays here. We want to just stick to what we know, stick to the stronger plays. And if I know a lot of people just want to pick, or who do you like? But I can always give those kind of insights. So definitely check me out at Cory Sandhagen UFC. But again, if I'm giving it out, I'm betting it, and as well as I bet 80% of my allotted bankroll per event on my client plays, and then sprinkling, the 10, 15, 20% is going to be on the free plays, value plays, parlays. You got to have bankroll management to beat this game, and there you have it. So I will definitely see you on the next show, and this is Cory Sandhagen's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.